What's up, everybody? We are doing it live. We are doing it live. We are back again, the Dev and the Gamer, episode 14. I don't know how we got to 14, you know what I'm saying? But we have, and it's all right. It's all good. It's fantastic.
Man, it feels less than 14.
I know it feels like 3. You know what I'm saying? It feels like Dev and the Gamer, like episode 5 at the most, but we got there. So it's fun to think about. But anyway, we didn't take a 4-month hiatus, and we are here. So let's get this show going on, and let me introduce my counterpart on this show, and that is the Don. What's going on with you, brother?
Not much, man. This is the only show where the intros do not take that long. As far as that goes, it's just me and you, right?
Just me and you. And you. We don't have to listen to Xbot doing them long ass.
You know, I enjoy those long ass introductions.
They are. That's great. Because
if you're doing something, it leads up. You're like, oh boy, Bot's gonna say so. Oh, that's me. I gotta get back to my desk.
Yes. It's if you go use the restroom or go fix an adult beverage or whatever the case may be.
It's usually setting up a drink right before the podcast.
Right. Because we're in the DM. I mean, we're in the chat, in the private chat, and we're talking about everything like crazy, and then we're just discussing things. And the next thing you know, we're for the start, guys. We're for the start. And then he starts it, and then we're like, okay, we got time. So
here's the thing. Here's the reason why I don't do a lot of podcasts, because usually involves drinking, right? So what happens is if you do multiple podcasts, you're like, I'm drinking, and then you drink like in the middle of the day, and then you're just like, oh, who cares if it's 11 o'clock? And the next thing you know, you got red wine in your cornflakes, man. So that's the reason why you got to limit how many podcasts we do. But we are here.
Wow. Red wine. So that's how the Don does it. He sits back with the gold goblet.
That is the downhill slope.
Oh, okay. With some Cheerios or
box wine and cornflakes, man.
Oh, man. Wow. Do you add any sugar to your cornflakes? I don't know. I used to as a kid. I
can't. I don't mind sugar in things, but man, if you put too much sugar and stuff, I can't handle it. I feel like my teeth are going to explode.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't had a Frosted Flakes in a while, and I was craving them. So the old lady got me some Frosted Flakes, and I remember I was like, man, I'm hungry, but man, I'm not going to go to sleep on a full stomach on eating some other food, man. So I'm just going to fix me a bowl of cereal. Man, I woke up like in the middle of the night, like, oh shit, that sugar hit me, boy. I was like, oh my God.
So when you're gaming late at night, you just had a bowl of Frosted Flakes, you're good to go, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really now Honey Nut Cheerios. When you get to an older age, you can't take so much sugar. But I mean, I don't have diabetes or anything like that, but it's just the fact that, your taste palate change, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But I still
absolutely. I mean, Captain Crunchy had to tear up the roof of your mouth and you didn't care as a kid. Now as an adult, You're like, oh, hell no.
Hell no. Yep. You got to start taking care of yourself the best way you can to get older, man. So what's up, everybody? I see so shady. Oh, man. I mean, you know what? You have the Dev and the Gamer. You asked for it, and it's here. So let's get started, man. Let's not hold up everybody. But go ahead and spread this out, man. Share this. Let's get this party chat going. I said party chat. Well, it is a party chat, and it is what it is. Anyway, let's get on to the first topic, man. And I really want to we were going to do this to be last, but let's talk about it now. And I apologize if anybody has not beaten Tomb Raider yet, but this is going to be some spoiler.
Man, I think we should talk about that last. That way, if people don't. Yeah, because if people don't want to be spoiled, they can just cut out.
Okay, I thought you wanted
to have to guess where they have to hop back in.
Yeah, true. That's true. That makes sense. All right, so let's go on straight to the crossplay. Let's go straight on to it, man. Let's talk about it. PlayStation 4 has now announced that they will be doing a quote unquote beta of crossplay with Fortnite. Now, I was assuming that they were going to start doing crossplay with because there was somebody that said it on Twitter that they were going to do it with Rocket League and with another game with Warframe, I think, but that turned out to be debunked. It's just going to be Fortnite. So I'm just going to ask you, Don, what makes you think, why did Sony make this change all of a sudden? Because they were pretty adamant about not wanting to do the crossplay thing so far. So what happened?
Yeah, there was a little bit of ducking and weaving in the wording, and nothing was consistent, and that's how, why people kept going like, what the hell are you talking about? Mm-hmm. It doesn't surprise me that they finally cave in. I think if you are going to cave in on any of these policies, you got to cave in now instead of later. You got to figure it out ahead of a time and get ahead of the bad press before it becomes a real issue, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a couple different things that come into play. Like I totally understand where Sony is at. If, say, someone does microtransactions on the game on their platform, they should receive the sales of those, or their cut of those microtransactions. So, like, if, say, someone's doing microtransaction in case of a free-to-play model like Fortnite on Xbox, and those items that they purchase through the Xbox store or through the game that's connected to the Xbox, those items shouldn't come to their platform, but anything that the consumer earns should. And then people's content shouldn't be locked as well. So if, like, say they earn a bunch of stuff on one platform, they go to play their account on another platform and it locks them out entirely. So I think there's a lot of red tape for them to kind of go through in regards to that. I think their excuses were excuses at the end of the day. And I think enough publishers, and the key word is publishers, because I think all publishers want it, and they're the ones that kind of move everything, mm-hmm. are pushing for it. There's a lot of pushing behind the scenes. There's a lot of talking behind the scenes. I've talked a little bit about stuff I really can't share on the air, all that sort of stuff. But this is one of those things that development studios are on the same page with. They look at games as a service as a business model they're going to go forward. In order to keep these games as a service games alive and to maximize the most profit, crossplay, it's kind of one of those things they kind of need to in order to do that. Because I always give this analogy. If you take Destiny, and Destiny, for example, like, doesn't have a lot of competition right now. They have this new influx of players from the new DLC that's come out. But what happens to Destiny when Anthem comes out?
Right.
Or other free-to-play games, or games that are very similar to that. It's going to cut into their user base to a certain degree. Hopefully the genre grows. So there's not a lot of that. But at the end of the day, people only have so much time to play Destiny or Anthem, and if they're all both the same type of game, one's going to have to take the back burner. So what this does is allows people to always have people to interact with these live worlds, so they don't become dry, they don't become stale. Keeps the conversation alive and keeps those communities alive, so the community is not divided between platforms. So it's one of those things. I know Epic is super on board with pushing this. Basically, when they went to the Game Awards, Donald Mustard, he said, basically declared war on the fact that we want crossplay, and he made it very well known. And here we are, and they're the first ones getting the beta program. They're the first ones, I think, ready. To be honest with you, too, I think a lot of people think it was just a switch that was flipped. You don't wire a switch. I mean, you have to wire a switch in, if you know what I mean. You have to write code for it. So it wasn't just like, oops. It was like, hey, we had this set up beforehand, preset, ready to go. And that whoops kind of came in after that. So, I mean, they had to program that into their engine, into the game in order to accommodate that. So, here we are. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a huge win for gamers. I think there's a lot of people that were on the defensive side of Sony that are kind of looking at that L in their hand. They're going, well, what do I do with this? You know what I mean? But it's not about rubbing it in those people's faces. It's about celebrating something that we're now in a new era of gaming that we never seen before.
Now, I like to rub it in their face. I mean,
I know you do. I'm not that guy. So.
I know, but it's just the thing, not for me just to go and say you told them so or anything of that nature. But it's one of those things where it's baffling to me that I've seen so many people had a change of heart in so less of time. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, they were all in defense of Sony's stance because they were saying that they were the market leader, that they were the ones that was dictating what was going on. The companies is going to have to fall suit for them because Sony has this market share. Now, of course, you see Sony is doing that, and it's really confusing to a lot of these guys. But the integrity aspect of it is hilarious because they're all in support of it. Now they're talking about, well, don't say that you Xbox or whatever cannot play Fortnite now because it's ready to go. I mean, you guys were just talking about how Sony is making the right decision by having it locked down because they have the market share. So now it's completely different. It like I said, it baffles me to no end. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge, and that something like that is like we've said on Next, we said on GRG, on everywhere else that Fortnite basically is if order for crossplay to make Sony make a move, it's going to have to be a big game. Bethesda, they talked a big game. It looks like that Bethesda kind of went back on their words and said that Fallout 76 really doesn't have to have crossplay for the PlayStation 4, which is very disappointing since they were talking all this big game. And then they were holding their guns with the card game, but that wasn't big enough. Now, Fallout would have been a huge, big game, but now since they already made the announcement and now you see that they are doing crossplay as a beta, I wonder do the people that runs Bethesda are kind of like, oh, we kind of shot our load a little bit too quick. I think we should have just waited because now Fortnite was that big game to really push the envelope.
Well, and when you have that big game take the envelope, then people feel a little more brave to talk about things. What you guys are hearing are the things that are floating to the surface. For every bit of news that floats to the surface, there's 20 other people talking about that stuff behind the scenes that are movers and shakers. So like you're just seeing the tips of the iceberg when it comes to these sort of news articles and these sort of stance that are going on. So, when you see things and you hear things and start to get traction one after another, this is kind of the spillover as far as all that stuff is concerned.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but it is, like you said, it's good for the gamers. I'm glad the PlayStation or people at Sony, they decided to at least attempt it. I think that now the gamers need to speak with their actions instead of with words, because I think what they say about beta, they want to see how many people will jump over and play. Now, I don't know if they're allowing people to switch over their accounts or things like that. I think they're just allowing them just to play with Nintendo and Xbox. But this is exactly what you said. It is to give longevity to certain games, and if not all types of games. And that right there that's why when you look at the pay model of how Killer Instinct, Street Fighter V, now Tekken, and others are trying to go with this season situation. Can you imagine now, like if you have a certain genre game, like I love fighters, so you can play Guilty Gear on the PlayStation 4, and if Xbox would so happen to get it, or in Nintendo to get Guilty Gear, and they could, and it may be a small base within those own consoles, right, in those own personal consoles, but if you combine them together, and then that gives them more opportunity for them to add another season pass or to keep people going and then have tournaments and things like that. The potential is right there. And last but not least, it's an option. That's the best thing about it. It's not like you're forced behind it, but it's always good for the gamer to have these options. And I think it's great. I want to ask you one more question about this though. Is where PlayStation fans are now, and I guess a few PC guys. There's only one PC guy that I know that's really been drilling this aspect about Xbox Live ever since the 360 era. But PlayStation fans are now talking about this paywall with Xbox Live in regards to free-to-play games. What is your stance on that? Do you feel that Xbox needs to let gamers play games for free, or do you think that it's really kind of overblown that they're just kind of grasping the straws right now?
I mean, there's always a defensive side of things when people feel like their hurt or their pride is
right
in question, and I don't think that's the right stance to personally take. That being said, I get we can criticize them though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take away the hey. I'm trying to, this is kind of a reactionary type thing, and let's just look at it as a whole. Yeah, it is something they should address. It's something their competition's doing that they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
I understand maintaining servers, I understand things are not free, but I would make the fundamental argument, and this is if I had Phil's ear, I had a report to him, and I said, like, here's the deal. Let's make free-to-play games free. You can't just say, hey, Phil, let's do that. Like, that's not how it works. You have to run reports, and you have to provide numbers to make it make sense, make it viable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense to you. I don't know what your work is. I know you do a lot of blue collar type stuff far as work goes, but when you have to answer a boss and you have an idea, you have to have a pitch, right?
Right. No doubt.
So the what I would run is reports on first one of a couple different things. How many people they're playing free to play games only play free to play games versus people that play free to play games on my platform versus a game that requires it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, makes perfect sense.
And that's the first thing, because that's the logistical number of what we're losing out on sales.
Mm-hmm.
And now we go, what percentage of money am I missing out on, or am I missing on more people to play free to play games, adopting the platform and doing catching up on the back end on the microtransactions? Because Microsoft gets a cut of those, Sony gets a cut of those when they own the game on that platform, and then they basically do all those small microtransactions. Everyone gets their cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the number that you need to validate is, are we holding people back from being able to do those microtransactions that maybe playing our platform that normally wouldn't, especially since Xbox will be more accessible through different formats, your PC.
Right.
We're talking about streaming devices down the road. We're talking about the next Xbox down the road and the trickle-down effect of all the different types of hardware they already have on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So more people will be playing on Xbox just as default as we grow. So the question is, how many of those people are just interested in free-to-play games? And is creating Xbox Live creating enough of a barrier where we're maybe possibly losing out on money on the back end on the cut of the microtransactions that normally decide, we're going to play on something else instead.
Right. And you know what? I would definitely think, like, when you just think about a game like Warframe, the difference of when Warframe first came out to what it is now, it is what I say what Destiny should be. It's awesome. And it's grown because of what you were saying, those microtransactions and the people supporting that. When they first was getting started, and they had, I don't think they started a Kickstarter. I'm not going to go that far, but I know that they get a lot of support, and they got a huge fan base. That's the reason why the game is successful as a free to play. You also have games like Neverwinter. Then you got, there's tons of free to play games. I know that there's some that really go overboard with the microtransactions, and people just kind of leave those alone. But there was somebody that was on Twitter that was saying, like, there's only like 10 people that really care about this. And I totally disagree. There's a lot of gamers that still play free to play games. We could just look at what Fortnite has done and the support that they're doing. So yeah, no, I think Microsoft should go ahead and relinquish it. Now, I know it's not going to be something that can be done overnight, but I think it's worth the discussion, because it is something that the competition can brag about and say that they have. And it's something that the competition don't. So I definitely agree.
Well, it's basically, you pretty much can pick up a PlayStation or an Xbox, depending on the quality level of the platform you want to get, roughly around the same price. either be used or new. And to be honest with you, Xbox and Sony don't care if you buy a new one or a used one. They don't care. They just care that you boot up their system, you engage in their ecosystem. Right. And if the only thing you do is engage in free-to-play games, and that's what you do, you're left with, as a customer, you're left with a decision: do I pick up an Xbox at that basic level? And if they realize that it's going to cost them more, and they don't care about graphics, they don't care about any of this other stuff that people argue about, then they're going to go to a PlayStation. They're going to go to a Nintendo Switch. And then what's going to end up happening there is, that company's still not making any money until they play that free-to-play game, and until they start getting money from, or start spending money on those microtransactions in regards to that. The opposite is so let's say they don't spend any money. So Sony or Microsoft doesn't make, well, in this case it would be Sony, because they don't charge for their service. They're making $0 on their internet connected service. And they're making $0 on the console because they bought it used. Well, the reality, and they're not spending anything on microtransactions, but if that person's engaging X number of hours a week, what they're doing is they're keeping that ecosystem alive, which brings in other gamers that are on that platform to spend money on that platform.
Right.
So they all contribute something to it. It's a symbiotic relationship between the gamer that doesn't have any money or doesn't want to spend any money versus the gamer that has more money than they know what to do with, or just this is the only game they play, so this is where they invest. So, it's important to kind of keep those sort of barriers down when it comes to this sort of thing. I understand there is maintenance and stuff like that, but financially there has to be a little bit of a restructure, a rethink of this. There has to be somebody in their basically law team that works at Microsoft that needs to look at the current terms and service agreement to make sure that's written differently so we can go forward with this. And next thing you know, I think you're going to have even more players maybe playing free-to-play games on that platform, but Microsoft's still making money. And Microsoft is not new to this. If you look at Windows 10, right?
Right.
What did they do? Was it a free upgrade for everyone that had, what is it? I think everything up to like 7, XP or something like that.
If you had 7 and 8, it was free.
Yeah, it was a couple different. It was like a ridiculous amount of people.
Yeah. It was a lot of people.
Why did they do that? They did that because they want you to be engaged into their ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thought process there. So we want them, as a developer, you want the customers to be engaged into the ecosystem, and at least just get them to play the game. That's the hook. If we can get you to play the game, we know you're going to like it. We'll see where it goes from there.
Right, and of course, once if people, you would have people that would be invested into wanting to, if they like that game that much, and of course, you have like games like Warframe and other free-to-play games that has Xbox One enhancements, and if they would choose to, they'd be like, hey, this game is free, but I might want to go ahead and get the Xbox One X. I mean, the possibilities are there. I totally am not against it. I think that's a great discussion to talk about amongst the gaming community, because it's not like Xbox Live is still the best in regards. I mean, of me having PSN and Xbox, Xbox Live is a lot more affordable. I know that people try to paint that Xbox Live is like people are struggling to hold on to it. There's a reason why people buy cards on Amazon for PSN, and people just go ahead and just let their credit card information or whatever just run through, and they'll just do an annual, year, 6 month, 3 month, whatever. And you can also find really good deals with Xbox Live as well. That's another advantage. Like, I mean, you can get Xbox Live for $30 for a year. If you found the right, like if you go to CD Keys or G2A, they're always got some type of deal.
That only applies to people that are not playing games that require multiplayer Xbox Live, right? Like the free-to-play games, like that. Those sort of customers, they like for example, if you play Call of Duty and you play Fortnite and you're complaining about the fact that you have to have Xbox Live on, to play Fortnite, but you're not, like it doesn't make any sense, right? Like at that point, you're contradicting yourself. If that's what you're playing now, if you're rooting for people that don't play the same sort of games as you, totally different situation. So,
right. No, I totally agree. I think it's a catch-22, but it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, in the sense of what's right and what's wrong and what things that Microsoft may want to fix it, because I think that the competition is doing it, and that could draw a lot of people to want to go over and maybe give the Xbox a try because of the fact that those games are free and those games aren't under a paywall. So I think that's a great discussion on there. People in the panel, just let me know what you think. I said the panel. My goodness. Yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking I'm on DRG.
Anybody. I see how it is.
I sent a link to nobody. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
That's how I got here. Don't worry about it.
Yes. I just sent random stuff. Anyway, where the guys? I'm in the chat.
It's so shady saying that we're pretty much a smoking lounge.
I know. We're over here, they talk about red wine and cigars and sitting back on recliners.
The old leather chairs, sparkle loungers.
I know. That's right. Anyway, so well, kudos to PlayStation for getting the crossplay, man. I mean, hopefully they'll implement that with a whole bunch of other games, because, man, I can't wait to play some Madden or some Tekken or whatever against.
I mean, that's the dream, right?
Great. Yes.
That's the dream. Like, I have a neighbor that's across the street, and like he's finally buying an Xbox. He's saving it up. That's why he's borrowing my Spider-Man, and I haven't seen it since launch, basically. But regardless if he didn't buy or plan on buying an Xbox or not, like, if for the longest time he was just like, no, I don't want to get one. And I'm like, man, like, I'm not going to buy another system or buy that copy on that console. He's not going to buy a console and another copy of that game. So it's just one of those things. Like, well, I guess we're not going to play together. I mean, that's what it boiled down to for the longest time.
Right. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. It would benefit a lot and the companies know this, the publishers know this, and the gamers know this. I mean, make it happen. Just make it happen. All right, man. Let's talk about Inside Xbox. And man, like, did you get a chance to watch it, Don?
Yeah, I don't know why I watched it, because the last couple I was very much not interested. Does that make sense? Leading up to it.
Right.
Just because of previous things, I feel like they were just really ironing out kinks, and I would catch it afterwards. And yeah, those earlier episodes were rough, but man, this episode it hit all the boxes, right? Like, I think everyone in general, like, there's general things people complain about. It was too long. Get to the point. Give insightful things, but don't take up my whole entire day. I mentioned I always wanted segments in it, and that's what it seemed like they structured into this. So they had something a little goofy and gooner at the end, but it only lasted for a short period of time.
Yes.
It was no big deal. So, like, whatever, you tune out. It's not a big deal. So when you have a bad segment, you're looking forward to the next thing. And I mean, I swear, if they kept the same structure and cut half the content that they did out there, I probably would have just enjoyed it just as much. Does that make sense? Like, I'm almost kind of worried about next month and if they even have anything.
They'll probably prolong some stuff. I mean, because they're not going to talk about the event that we'll talk about and get and make our kind of predictions or the rumors or whatever. Because I'm excited about talking about XL. But I mean, but what was your favorite thing about it? About the show?
Favorite thing I mean, there's not a single thing I didn't like about it.
Okay.
To be totally honest with you, it's everything I've been asking them to do. We've cut them slack this whole entire time since they restarted it, and they nailed it. In regards to that, I think Phil is a very likable person, so people like when Phil comes in, does announcements. I like how Phil didn't, when he talked about keyboard and mouse support, he didn't just say, like, he didn't do it in a tweet, keyboard and mouse support. coming. Like, people have questions about that. That format doesn't work when you tweet something like that out, right?
Right.
So he was able to have a small conversation and close what all that means for you guys as gamers. I love the fact that keyboard and mouse support is coming to the Xbox.
Me too.
Even though it may not be a game that I'm interested in, when you give more tools to developers, it's kind of like, they don't have to use that tool, but it's there. It gets them to start thinking differently, and they approach their games differently. The fundamental argument is you can't balance keyboard and controller, and I 100% disagree, because there's enough numbers and there's enough stuff to say it's really not a problem. Because let's say if there's a segment of PC and keyboard and mouse guys, right, that just seem unstoppable. Well, wouldn't matchmaking make them float to the top?
Right. True.
Right. So the occasional time you would run into one, it's over.
It's over. Yeah.
Right. And we don't want unbalanced as developers. You don't want unbalanced gameplay, because it's unbalanced and people don't feel like, if they feel like it's too challenging when they're playing against other players, they stop playing the game. If they feel like the product is not challenging enough, they stop playing the game. So there's another way to keep people engaged. There's other things you can do as well. Like, why can't you just shrink the hitbox? I mean, that doesn't solve everything, right? But it does address things. You can do changes. You can shrink the hitbox, so that would make it so they're forced to be a lot more accurate than a controller player. So there's some balancing. There's aim assist with controllers versus keyboard. Like, there's all these different things we can do as developers. We can explore. We can provide new experiences. This kind of sticking your heels in the sand, not saying we want this sort of stuff, is the same mentality that people have said to Bungie that you can't do a first-person shooter on a console.
Right. Absolutely right.
Which is one of the biggest genres on console today.
Yeah. It's the moneymaker. I mean, if you look at the biggest budget, the biggest grossing games in console gaming, they're mostly all shooters. If not all of them are shooters. So it's pretty funny when you go about that. And then, of course, the mighty Halo was the one that changed the game by making it, by making it really popular. I mean, you had 007, and I know that was really popular on N64, but shooters were so far in between that, I used to hate playing Doom and all those other games because they were on PC, and I'm not a shooting fan with the mouse and keyboard. Give me a controller. But for games like Civilization, Halo Wars 2, what I'm saying, all of these Age of Empires, Eve, playing with mouse and keyboard is the only way that you can really master how that game is supposed to be played. And that's what gets me excited about it, because that brings a new audience to the Xbox. And on top of that, that also introduced these games to Xbox fans that may never care to play those games. I mean, that's why I'm like, as many options as possible. I don't know why these people have Barney Rubble thought process and thinking way back and thinking like a gaming and should never excel or change when they talk bad about streaming, when they talk bad about new concepts or what.
It's the crazy thing is I don't think it will change.
Crazy.
I don't think it will change that much for them. Like, I talk about matchmaking, right? So let's say you're not the guy that can go toe to toe with a mouse and keyboard player. Right. That's good. Then it's not a you issue. like that person floats to the top, and you're going to be in the area where you're constantly got that balance between you're successful and you have a little bit of challenge up against you, pushing up against you. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, you said it's up to the developers, and this is, if you said anything else other than that, then I don't know if I would agree with Phil. But I always knew this was the stance they had. It was an additional tool for their developers to be able to decide what they want to do.
Right.
I know people want just like a cut and dry and just say, give me option to do it, yes or no. Let's see what the game is first. Let's try the game out first. I mean, that's the whole point in these games, is like to try stuff out and see if you like it. in regards to that. If you absolutely hate it and it's unbalanced and it's awful, guess what? There's self-refund on Xbox.
Right. And also, like, a lot of people were complaining about why is that RTS not coming, that RTS Gears game not coming to Xbox? Well, because it's more built for mouse and keyboard. You got this, then you have a greater chance for that game to come over. Now, of course, that they can still use, I'm pretty sure that they'll have something to where you can still use the controller, but you could definitely tell the differences and I love Halo Wars too. When I was talking about it last year, I was how much I touted it, right? But and so the thing of it was is that when I played it on PC and then I played it on the controller, I mean, yeah, I like playing it on my TV, but I enjoyed playing with the mouse and keyboard better than I did with the controller, even though the controller worked fine. It's just that to me, it's like to have that option is sweet. Like, I mean, for people that may say, look, I'm not interested in it. I don't care about it. And then you give them the option to say, hey, you know what? Well, I got a mouse and keyboard. I could just let me hook it up and just see what it is like. And then if they play a certain game and then they see the benefits to it, then they might be hooked. They might completely change and be like, hey, man, I want more games to have this type of feature. So I do agree. I do appreciate that Phil is saying, look, the developers decide what they want to do with that. It's like you said, the matchmaking and protection of people cheating and things like that. I mean, those things are important, but to have that option, I don't see why anybody would complain about it. It's just it's crazy to me.
And that's the thing is that, yes, developers they have to address cheating. They have to address a lot of different stuff, especially when you're talking about crossover between an open platform and something relatively closer like an Xbox, when you're talking about that sort of stuff. But all you're identifying, way I look at it is all you're identifying is the challenges. And you're taking the challenge and saying it can't be done. Right. A developer's job is to say, can we do it? And how can we do it? And is it fun? And then if I'm able to make it fun, can I make it balanced to keep my customers engaged?
Right.
They're always incentivized by that. And so that's like the thought process. That's the mindset of all this sort of stuff. And it's change. I get it. People are going to have certain feelings and certain reactions to it. There are going to be certain games that may not get certain guns because of mouse and controller support. One of the things I think is incredibly unbalancing Gears is that I think there's a gun. I think it's called the IMBAR. If I'm saying it incorrectly, guys, just correct me in the chat. Mm-hmm. But the IMBAR, it doesn't work when someone has a mouse and keyboard and someone doesn't, because basically you can snipe across the map with very little effort.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that game is supposed to have effort. So I can see games in the future just say, well, we're not going to have that gun. So yeah, there are consequences to that, but also what doors you shut, you also open others. And that's kind of where it's going on there. I mean, I understand where people come from. It's going to be change. Anytime when you open these doors, the first thing I hate is when somebody's in the party and they'll blame it on it. Right. Oh, man, like when I was playing with Xbox and we had cross-play with Forza Horizon 3, and I love Xbox to death, but that guy complained every time someone was playing on a PC because they had extra frames.
Oh, yeah, Delirium. Yeah, man, he was dipping. He would dip on you, but he knew how to tune the cars.
He knew how to tune the car. He also drove with not only manual transmission, which not a lot of people do on Forza, right? But he does manual transmission with clutch.
Yeah, that's why he gets out on your ass. Like he can hit a corner and then and I'm like, oh my God, this dude. But yeah, you would, and that's the thing. It's just like with Sea of Thieves. Remember when we were shooting those boats and they weren't breaking, and we were like, oh, these are PC cheaters and hackers, and then we all fell for the trap, and then come to find out that it was a patch that they needed. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, and so now when we've played Sea of Thieves, we haven't had any trouble. We haven't had any bad situation whatsoever.
Oh, we need to get on that game again.
Yeah, we do, because they also added the new update to that. So yeah, we definitely.
That's coming at the part of it. They did it like a soft rollout. The rest of the update, I think, is happening beginning of next month. But Yeah, we'll expect a lot more stream from K Mega and the Dawn because we're going to be playing Forza Horizon and Sea of Thieves like crazy.
Yes. And when we'll eventually have the people that we need to jump on the Master Chief Collection, so we could go through Halo 3. So we could just go ahead and knock that out on Legendary. So
Shady just pointed out, said Halo Forge would be way better with mouse and keyboard.
Absolutely.
So Shady, you can actually use Halo Forge on your PC right now, and it's the only time I ever play with Forge is on my PC. It is crazy easier to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits to it, and I mean, just like the coalition could decide, like, look, we don't want anybody to use mouse and keyboard. We just want it to be straight controller. I mean, that's the options that the developers can make, however they want to. It's just like when, if Age of Empire, which I really do think Age of Empire and Civilization is going to be coming to the Xbox now.
I think this was like the missing step. I don't think they wanted to do it without mouse and keyboard, and it's not that they can't do it with controller, but when you feel like you have to, when you feel like you have to compromise your vision, and that's what hinders, I think, certain developers from wanting to bring certain things to certain platforms outside of time and money. If it just gets like more of that personal area, that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah. It is what it is. But I mean, for me, of course, seeing Forza, Forza. I love that card game. It's magic. I can't wait till Friday. I cannot wait.
Oh my gosh, you and me both got the same game, right?
We got the Ultimate Edition. I cannot wait till Friday, man. And then they were showing the Bond cars. That was dope. And then also I think that some of those cars won't be available. I don't think they won't be. I'll take that back. I was listening to when they were doing after the show when they were just primarily just talking about Forza, and they were saying that like they're going to have the seasons go through I think it's a month or
so every cycle. Every week the season changes.
Yeah, not every it's not every week. It's like a month, and then they change over. That like the seasons will change like they're supposed to. Like once that's what they were saying.
No. It's not that. So it's
every week.
It's every week.
Okay, all right. Well,
so like, let's say if you want to play winter, I think that's where the month came in. If you want to play the winter, you missed it, you have to wait that month for winter to come because it has to cycle through the other seasons before it gets there again.
Okay. Maybe you're right. But the one thing I was trying to say was that like certain cars will not be available once that season is gone. And that to me is like, I'm going to go crazy on it. That's going to be like my crack. I'm just going to be.
You're saying certain cars you can't.
Yeah, like
burn or what? Like, what are you trying to say?
Like there's going to be cars that will come through in the Forza-thon during those weeks or that they'll
okay, so you're talking about Forza-thon versus the season, which are different.
Well, they're kind of trying to tie it all together. If you listen to what they were saying at the end of the show, because that show they would have like I think it was like an hour long, and they were basically saying like there's going to be certain cars, costumes, things like that will only be available only that one time. So if you miss it, then you miss it, which is crazy to me because I want to try to get as many cars as I possibly can. Also, the fact that it's got like a season mode, plus it's got like a story mode on top of that. Like that's insane. And it just the whole aspect of wanting people to just be all involved into it, to be online, or you could like play it solo. But it's just like, damn, like Playground Games has just outdone themselves with this game. That was by far one of my favorite things of the show. And then of course, Killer Phil stepping on the scene, being fresh to death, talking about the event. Like we've been talking about this.
Oh, you're talking about the XO event, right?
Yes, talking about the XO event. And
what's funny about the XO event, right? So I've heard everyone else were talking about it, and I'm like, man, I don't know where people get their information from. It's not that I don't trust people. I'm not hearing about this. And I think it was just prior, like a couple weeks prior to me being on GRG, where I'm saying, man, I'm now starting to hear from multiple different sources. They're not just gamers. These are developers that this is going down. And when you hear from multiple different people that don't talk to one another, and I just happen to be that guy they're expressing this stuff to, there's something to be said there, right?
Right.
And so it was very interesting to see all that kind of come out in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, like me, Tim Dog, Downer, Lemon, or you know what I'm saying, 108 Dragons, and
because you were saying it because of E3, right?
Yeah, because it was going down. Delilah was one of the first people that brought it up. Her and El Boogie were the first ones to kind of bring it up when we were all eating, and we were like, "Whoa!" And then Megatron was like, "Is that rumor true?" And then we all discussed it, and then next thing you know, I ran into Tim Dog out there, and then he was with Downer, and we was all just talking and hanging around, and then it really started circulating, and then they were just talking about, hey man, they're going to do more than this, that they're going to bring, they're going to go after more studios, and there's going to be more announcements, that they just couldn't put everything into this E3.
They publicly announced that they held stuff back.
Yes.
Multiple different interviews. I think Phil did that. I think with the Giant Bomb guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think a lot of people knew what that meant. I think when, the closed loop of people that we talked to were talking about this event, I was kind of skeptical until later on. I'm like, I think this is a real thing. And people were kind of questioning all of that sort of stuff. And, and the cool thing is, and here's the thing, I'm not going to be able to go to this. But Phil covered his bases, and this is what I want from Phil. This is what I want from Major Nelson. And even Major Nelson, like when he was given the whole side story. But how like Sony was talking about crossplay. Instead of doing a long rant, all Major Nelson had to do is the tip of the hat, right? And all he did was give him a thumbs up.
Right.
Like that's how you need to handle the competition that you profit off of. It is the best way to describe it, right?
Right.
That's how you do. That's what people want, and Phil's giving you what he wants when he is addressing these higher level things for people to understand that like there's more to this stuff.
Right.
So Shady said they were dropping hints, and talked about when they used the whole acquisition of Rare was announced at an EXO event.
Right, and Phil brought that up himself.
Yeah,
talking about on that show. Yeah,
he wasn't pushed to say that. He wanted to say that.
Right, and it's exciting. It's exciting because I mean, especially if you're an Xbox fan, you've heard so much that Xbox is not doing anything. They're just kind of sitting on their hands. They're just waiting until the next generation to do something. But it's and the one thing of that we've also been hearing, we haven't heard anything about is Crackdown 3, and I'm pretty sure
why.
This may be why. And I don't know. I mean, he sounded pretty confident about it, but I want to get your thoughts on, because we're just in the speculation stage right now. But what do you think that they'll say? I mean, if they're going to do a studio, which studio would you think that they would say that they acquired?
I would say Sumo Digital.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand. Like when you talk about certain studios, sometimes people just don't understand them. If that makes any sense. I see Sumo Digital being something I would have my eyes on because there's potential for growth there. Okay. They're a well-established studio. As far as that goes, you kind of know where their talent is going with the Crackdown franchise. The franchise wasn't pulled from them. It was put more and more into their hands. So the question is why they're doing that. Is it just cheap to work with that studio, or they like where they're going with that? So we'll see where that goes. That's kind of how I look at that. Is it really is one of those things that they're kind of a studio I don't think people will even think about, and they're on the uprise. That's the other thing too. Like I talked about Playground Games. You want a studio that's on upward projection, not a downward projection, if that makes any sense. and that seems like a studio that is going to be an upward projection. And if Crackdown is good, and that's an if, then I think people will be a little bit more happy with that acquisition. But I don't know exactly what they have planned or anything like that. They're not knocking on my door. I'm not showing them anything about what I'm working on or anything like that. But I do see Sumo being one of the only studio I can think of as of right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see it. And that's a smaller studio, isn't it? I mean, because that's one thing that Xbox have said that they're looking at more.
Talent is not huge.
Okay, yeah.
So they do a lot of, from what I understand, they do a lot of licensing out to, or a lot of guns to hire. Does that make sense? So they had a bunch of people guns for hire. Then they finished up what they were going to do prior to the summer, and then we found out that they postponed Crackdown, and those people are now working on the project even more. So it's kind of one of those companies that can grow and expand and bring on additional staff, and then have the natural breathing where it can let people go do other projects as far as that goes, and they work well with people. So
yeah. I mean, that'd be a good pickup. I mean, for me, I got to go left because that's just me. I'm still gonna say Remedy, man. I want Remedy because I want Quantum Break. I want Quantum
you just Break. Want to will it into existence.
I want to will it to existence. I mean, like I said, when I talked to them out there, and I was talking to them about Control and asked them, like, did they have any similarities to? Was there anything connected with Control with Quantum Break? And they said no, same actors or whatever, but it was basically that, it's the same type of engine that was running on it, or what that they was running for Quantum Break. But it was like, but when I said, look, man, I love Quantum Break, I said, I want you guys to work with Microsoft. They cheesed, like, there was this tall blonde. See, they're like, I guess they're from Sweden or something like that, or yeah. But that blonde was really tall. Like, I was like, damn, she's almost tall as me. But they were really nice. They were really cool. And I said, hey, I mean, and they were just, she's like, we definitely want to too. That's it. That's a plan. And I was like, oh, I was so excited, right? So I know that it's not cut and dry, and it's just probably, as for me, just a pie in the sky. But for them to say Remedy, I think that will put shockwaves all through social media from all of us gamers, because that's something that
I do have a fear about Remedy.
What's that?
If they stay independent, will they?
He said Finland. Peter Young said Finland. I knew it was somewhere in that area.
We're all Americans. It's all the same country.
Oh, damn. Oh, go ahead,
I want them to continue to exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And there's a bottom line concern with Remedy, not because they're not. It's not because they don't make good product, right? They make really good products. The question is, they're always like typically cult classics,
right?
And they're not. They don't hit those. People learn about them later, like most cult classics, right? Like they make it up on the back end of it. And so it's really hard for a studio to survive in that environment. So my concern is from them is I want them to be able to survive. That is the key thing, because I love their content in regards to that. And this may not go over very well, but I don't care who buys them out. I just allow them to continue to make stuff. That's all I care about. Give them the backing they need to visionize their dream and be able to bring stuff out there. And I want a good partnership with those guys. So
yeah, no doubt about that. That's why it's just like, man, Remedy has so much talent, and Quantum Break did not get the love that it deserved, advertising wise or from the media, because of the whole resolution garbage. And now you play that game and you look at that, like it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game, and and then the story was absolutely fantastic. But on top of that, I mean, there's a lot of people that, like you said, it's cult classic, Alan Wake, a lot of people like that. That, you know what I'm saying, and what they do with Control, I mean, that's a multi-plat, but whatever. I think that it just and you let Remedy have their creative freedom on making something else, they can make something that's bizarre and crazy, and then just add that to what Ninja Theory is going to do, what the Initiative is going to do, what all the rest of the companies. Man,
storytelling was brought into any one of those other studios. Just bring them Sam Lake. Hey, we got the story. Imagine an ODST 2 written by Sam Lake.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Like, he's the one that would be able to bring that atmosphere to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
It'd still be whatever partnership that 343 has or anything like that, but just be able to put his flavor on it. Just a little sprinkle. You know what I mean? That would bring so much to it. I think those guys are super talented. I do think Control is kind of a budget version of Quantum Break. But I enjoyed Quantum Break, and it seems like it's less live action and more of the actual game, and I'm not going to complain about that. I'm looking forward to picking that up. Unfortunately, that's only 2019. Screw 2018.
Right. That's just what it is, man. So I mean, there's more money to be spent, and it's just crazy. I had no idea that video games was going to be like a payment plan. It's crazy, man. I've never in my entire life, as being a gamer, has owned as many games as I own now, and has seen so many games that's just bow. Like, I mean, that just, as a gamer, you should feel almost privileged to be in this era, in this time, because it's flourishing beyond my wildest dreams. It's really
they're
fantastic.
Finding new ways. Developers are finding new ways to make money, right? And so what you're getting is there's certain games that are becoming these incredible AAA experiences, but you're also having these middle ground experiences that are taken up by independent developers. That's the space I'm shooting for. Where it's, not the AAA, but I shoot for AAA, and where I land is probably AA or that B level that we're all looking for, right? And then there's other people that just have cool little quirky ideas they want to do, and you know what? And it attracts a different type of gamer, and then gaming becomes more normalized, right? It becomes, that's what the Wii did really well, is it appeals to the grandmas and the grandpas, and from kids to people that normally wouldn't try out something anymore. It opens them up to all that sort of stuff. And that's what I find amazing about all this stuff. But I just keep picturing, if they do show Crackdown and they fly out Terry Crews down to Mexico, that man's going to be the tallest man there.
He might be. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's a big guy. But the thing of it is that that's another thing too, because Mexico is, that Xbox is dominating in the Latin American spot. They're killing it. Brazil, it's Xbox Nation, right? Mexico, they're there. It's Xbox Nation out there.
It's a growing segment.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge demographic. And I mean, if you ever, because I've talked to a couple of diehard Xbox fans that's out there in Brazil. Those people, they make what people think of us as Xbox, or I should say you, but for me, they make us look like we're tame, like we're ultra neutral, because those guys out there are insane. They're not
vicious. That's what's crazy about it. They're not. They're not. Because there's fans, and people use the derogatory term of a fan, and they're not the derogatory version of that. They're literally just happy, and they enjoy the product, and they're passionate, right? And that's, I want to go there just to see what that type of passion is like. Like, and I don't blame them. Like, I'm bummed that it's being done down there, but the same token, they're gamers as well, and they're super fans.
They got 10,000 people that's going to be at their fan fest. That's insane. Like, I mean, when we was there at the fan fest, like there were thousands of of people, but it wasn't 10,000. I mean, that's just in the fan fest. That was crazy. That's going to be insane. It's like Delirium Blade said, bro. It's going to be like a FIFA thing. It's going to be insane. And so, of course, since they had such a big venue, they got to show it. They have to show it. And I'm ready for another shock and awe because they really killed it this E3.
You know what's interesting?
They got to get ready because I think PSX is going to be probably the best it's ever been.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. I think PSX is going to be solid. Last year's PSX was a I can't remember if it was last year.
Yes. Have you heard anything about PSX?
No. We know it's coming.
That it's a double-edged sword. That's what I'm saying here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So either they're holding their stuff to their chest closely, right, or it's on the down low, and it's one or the other. Like it's never going to be somewhere in the middle with that type of reaction leading up to it. The other thing is I wouldn't be surprised if third party is also at the Xbox event. The third party has been at PSX in regards to stuff. So that maybe we'll see because they talked about how different games or different publishers and developers want to have their games shown on Xbox. Does that siphon away from PSX? I know people are always going to turn this into like the most extreme arguments, but it does raise the question. Because if I had a game on multiple different platforms, I always want to show it off on the platform that shows my game off the best. In regards to that, and because I put all the hard work, especially coming from an art background, into something. So I wonder if it's going to eat a little bit into PSX. I don't know. I hope they're both good shows, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. I just think that I think since Sony knows that Xbox is going to have this show. Now, I mean, they've had some really flat PSNs, but I just think that I don't know. I think that they're going to have some games to show. I don't know. We'll see. But I know Xbox, for them to do this, and then also they announced that they're going to they're going to go to different locations. So like when they hit Texas, I'm there, Jack, because I mean that's just skipping a jump. That's only a 3-hour drive. I'm there. So that, or if they go to Kansas, whatever. I mean, I would love them to come to Oklahoma, but of course, I mean Oklahoma's not a big enough venue for something like that. So anything close out here in the Mid-South, I'm on it, Jack. So it would be awesome, and I think this is great. This is great for the fans because for people that can't go out there to LA, they go out there to go closer to the East Coast, Mid-South, all of that. It's great for them to want to bring it back. So I think it's great. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to probably a sad story. Well, it's not probably. It is a sad story, and that's the Telltale Games situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, more information came out yesterday and today in regards to there was a lawsuit, and it looks like Telltale Games is going to get lit up, and for how they did the situation and how they did the gamers. This is the one thing that I don't understand, and this is what makes people when people make this argument about pre-ordering games, it makes them right. When it says you need to just wait, take your time, don't do it early. See, I already pre-ordered Anthem, and it's I don't know, like what, 10 months away, something like that, whatever. And when you go ahead and with all the people that went and got paid for the Walking Dead, and they paid the full price, I don't hear anybody getting their money back. I mean, they paid the full $30, $50, whatever, and they're not going to have the complete seasons. This is the last season. No, but you know what I'm saying? The employees didn't get paid. So that's why this lawsuit. They violated all types of employee rights and laws. Also that, they just did it abruptly, and it just left everything in shambles. And you feel bad for these developers, but then again, you look at this situation with, like we were just talking about with Remedy, you want to keep those doors open, but you don't want people to just go out and these companies to go out and just screw over their fan base like this. and the gamers that's helped them stay afloat as long as they have been. What do you think about this?
You don't want to empower developers that have bad business practices.
Right.
If that makes any sense. I shouldn't say I know. You're only hearing about the basic lawsuit. That's the tip of the iceberg. And I always try to give you guys a picture behind the scenes a little bit, and how things work. That is the tip of the iceberg. Some of the stuff I've heard about the studio has turned me off from trying their games entirely. I've never been a huge fan of their games, and I've said this before. I've never played through a Telltale game or anything like that. But if they made something that would interest me, some of the stuff I've heard behind the scenes is just like, no, I just can't support them because of that. Now, I don't want to just say that stuff live in the air, what those things are, because it's water cooler talk. It's through the grapevine. I don't know the legitimacy of all that sort of stuff. But what I do know is they had a hard time maintaining staff there. And what I mean by that is staff would come in and they would treat the studio as more of a transient studio. So a lot of new young blood would come in there. They would put up with whatever. And then they would get the credentials and get out of there. And so when you constantly have that rotation of staff, how are you able to build a studio? Does that make sense? Like, right. You have to have a certain amount of the core staff has got to stay there. And if you think everyone's just going to leave on you, then like, how do you build a culture? How do you build that creative mind that works together with a bunch of other creative people there? And that's what happened. So, I'm not surprised by this. But they weren't on my radar because they're not a studio that I'm really that interested in. But I would say most of the people that were there that now no longer have a job there, I would say the majority of those people probably would have left in 6 to 8 months anyways, given the current track record of the studio.
Yeah. And also it's been that the game is The Walking Dead is not even for sale. They pulled it off. They pulled it out. It's not even for sale anymore. And it's really unfortunate because this is what got me into the Telltale Games was The Walking Dead. I know I started it way late, but they had one of those big package deals and I bought like all of their games they had available during Black Friday. And The Walking Dead, I fell in love with it. And I was like, whoa, made me fell in love with it so much that I started watching the show. And so I was like, this is dope. And so the whole Clementine story, you wanted to find out how it was going to conclude. It was, the storytelling was absolutely amazing. Graphically, I know that it's not up to par. It's nowhere near on the level of Detroit
you accept it for what it was. Like, it didn't try to pretend to be something it's not, right?
Yeah, it's good. And it's sad because, people like 100 and he paid for the full season because he was excited and wanted to support it. Now, like these people that are taxing them, they're like, well, what about my money? And I'm going to call Xbox. Well, it's not Xbox's fault. They didn't know that this was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to have to recoup the money. Now, if they could, Xbox, PlayStation, and them could, try to, give you some of your money back. But I mean, it's really not their fault for it. You have to, get your money back from
one of those bad things where everyone points the finger at everyone else and no one steps up to the plate, right?
Right. It's a damn shame.
It sucks. Like,
yeah, it's horrible.
And this is, I don't like episodic content. I'll be honest with you too. I am not out of all the different business models we have is when you have this kind of like episodic content where things don't really have an end, they leave you on a cliffhanger and you want something, you have to wait until the next thing, and game development takes time. And I'm just not a fan of that business model. That's why I don't like, Hitman or anything like that. Like I'll wait until everything is out and then I'll do kind of the Netflix and chill solution of gaming, right? Like I'll just binge the whole thing if it's something good. But
right,
it's one of those things. It's unfortunate. I feel like this is also par for the course for a lot of companies in San Francisco, and I know this sounds weird. People that are not from San Francisco that lived at San Francisco and moved away, they know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. People they're in the weeds of San Francisco, like they're in denial of it. And there's people that never been there. Like, why do people keep picking on San Francisco? It is a very self-serving area. It's one of the reasons why I didn't want to build a studio out there. In regards to that, I want people to be taken out of their elements. I want people, talented people that really are, they're not stuck in a bubble, right? Like they have their individuality that they bring to the studio. And sometimes that brings clashing. I get that. But with that comes new creative ideas. But you go to San Francisco, it's very much a Borg-like type of mentality. If you don't believe this, whatever the culture is at the time in that particular key area, you're made out to be the villain. And, it kind of continues from there. So, you see a lot of big tech companies like rise and fall. Or if they survive because they moved out of they try to at least move out of the Bay Area. Even if they stay in California, they'll move out of the Bay Area on the outskirts of it. So there is a weird culture thing with their region where they're at. And, I think everyone was talented there. And I'm more than confident they're going to find jobs.
Right. Yeah. Everybody has reached out to them. I mean, that's just one of the things that, you feel bad for the developers out there in Konami and what they went through. Even Kojima, you happy that, big time developers and small time developers, they land on their feet and be graced by, not graced, but be supported, because they know that, it's not easy work. I can tell from listening to a lot of people, interviews, things like that. I mean, you got to commend these people that do what they do, will do what you guys do, because you get a lot of people that will hate on your stuff or will try to change your stuff, or scrutinize it for whatever reason. It's a hard job, man. You gotta have tough skin.
It's a different type of hard, right? Like, like I look at your job as really, really hard, but it's a totally different type of hard than what I deal with, right? Right. It's more of a mental game, and it's that balance of trying to be humble enough, but being cocky enough and brash enough to be able to do things that other people may think they're not possible, and continue to strive for the best in regards to that. So, yeah, game development is not easy by any means, but it's a high risk, high reward platform. What people need to understand when you get into game development, whatever company you work for, you want to make sure you save your pennies, because good game developers do get paid good money. I don't think somebody working on artwork getting paid $70,000 a year is chump change. They're doing well in regards to that. So live in your means kind of low and build up that cash cow before you start living high on the hog. Don't be driving a smart car with spinners. Don't be doing that your first month of working at a studio. Save up your coins, because this sort of stuff will hit you. But if you're prepared, you will do really well, and you won't have to settle for a job that probably not going to be a good fit for you. You can find the right niche in the industry for what you have to do, and you can live comfortably. You just gotta do your dues. You do got to save up. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough deal, but man, I just wanted to talk about that, man. Just get your thoughts on it, because I really do feel bad for those people. But yeah, I feel bad for everybody that's involved, because it's just one of the things it puts a black eye on the industry itself, and it trickles down to everybody, even the people that support your product, and you're gonna try to screw over not only the people that support your brand, but the people that bust their ass to make this game come out. It's it's fucked up. That's just bottom line. But anyway, let's go on here to our last point before we get out of here, and that is to get back on talking about Tomb Raider. So let you people know right off the bat there, spoiler alert, you might have to go and get out of here because I want to talk about something that popped up on the interwebs, as my boy 100 would say, and that is it was in regards to the ending of Tomb Raider, not so much the end of the ending, the main.
It's the extended ending after the credits.
Yes.
So we were talking a little bit about this, and I had to shut K Mega up so we can talk about it later. So
yeah. So basically, what happened was that I didn't pay no attention to it. I just watched it, and it was showing an ending where pretty much Lara Croft was. After the credits went off, where Lara Croft was sitting at a desk, she was writing a letter to someone, and then they showed that box that was kind of like the main thing about the story, and a letter, and on the letter it was addressed to at the time was Laura's friend Natal. I can't pronounce her name, but she is in the original Tomb Raider from the PlayStation 1 days. Was a friend of Laura, but then come out to be the double crosser and was the main villain in the story. So basically, it looks like that they're going to kick off the Tomb Raider aspect of it. Laura's going to be older. She's going to be a woman now, and well, she's a woman in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but she's going to be
matured,
much more mature.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, come to find out that in forums that when people brought that up, that it was an ending that was not supposed to be seen. They had multiple endings that they had available, but there was a patch that was supposed to erase that altogether because the team out there decided that they wanted to go a whole nother direction. So, which was crazy to me because Don said that he's seen the same thing. So that's a blunder on them. But do you like the fact that they're not going to stick to the original script and change everything up? What do you think about that with this ending?
Well, here's the thing. So I don't know much about the original Tomb Raiders. I didn't play them to finish. I played all the new reboots from start to finish and stuff like that. So I got a little bit of an idea, and you can see where things are kind of going. I think they can. Nothing wrong with just acknowledging it's there and just do different parts of the story. You don't have to make that person the main villain, right? What it does is it leaves a door open if they decide if things are going south and they're like, maybe we'll revisit that earlier idea we had. Because, that sort of stuff changes all the time, right? Obviously, that's the reason why they made a cutscene entirely. It's not like they just put a little bit of effort into it. They actually put some more effort into it, and they made a cutscene entirely. And they, obviously they thought about it for a while, so they have that option to be able to go back to it. They can totally go back to it, just as long as you just don't do your story in a way that contradicts whatever importance that was in regards to that. But yeah, I basically was sitting through it had the awe moment of finally finishing the game, which by the way, the underwater volcano scene,
oh my god,
that game is ridiculous.
That is so dope.
Best combination of like art direction, utilizing what the machine can do, just being creative, just all coming together at one moment. I'm just like, all right. I mean, tip of the cap to those guys. I mean, those guys are just awesome. Yeah. Hey, Brian, this is a spoiler part of the podcast. That's what we do at the end, man.
That's what we do at the end. Sorry. and the one scene where it just made me just like, wow, you got to be kidding me, is when she made the alliance with the people. Like, I'm like, oh snap! Like, it was so dope. Like, you got to be kidding me. And then, like, what she
there's that point where she made the alliance, right? And you walk through the crowd, and they're kind of doing their chants and worshiping. And you're like, oh shit's about to go down. Like, they're ready to die for you,
right?
And as you're going through, traversing the terrain, and those guys are, whatever those creatures are, they're all around you. And it was weird because I hated those areas where I had to play those people because it freaked the hell out of me. Like I was like, let me out of here. Let me finish this part. Let's go.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, now they're on your side, and there's that switch from being something you're afraid of them, right?
Yeah.
To feeling empowered by the thing you were afraid of.
Right, like, oh, like this is badass. Like I'm like, and that's what made the game even more spectacular, because they had the music, and then you had and like the one thing about Tomb Raider, that it took you through a roller coaster. Like you seen every aspect of Lara Croft, from her being gentle to her going straight rage. Like that scene to me where she manhandles that guy by herself and kills that dude
with the knife when she comes out of the water and the fire behind her.
Oh my god, that was stupid. The music in the back, and that's one thing that if you had to listen to that game, if you didn't have surround sound, you had to listen to it with headphones. Just kind of like I said, it is definitely up there with Hellblade. Hellblade is still the best when it comes to sound effects and all of that, but Tomb Raider is very close to it.
Well, it doesn't have to take away from that. It's just really good. I mean, it is what it is. Like some people will say certain games look better than others. So I don't care. I really don't. That's not a conversation I'm here to have. Is it awesome? It is a great experience. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
And what is the closest thing comparable to that? Like, because here's the thing: people are just going to like different things from people, and trying to convince somebody else to like something in the same level the way you like it, that's just silly. That's not a conversation that really takes us anywhere, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, but man, that moment where she thought Jonah died or whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
And she got all predator up, and you start taking people out. Oh,
that's what I'm saying. That was so dope. Like you seen every actual true emotion from a human being that would survive something like that. Like that is so crazy.
Well, it's not just that. Like, okay, so like you and I were thrust in that situation. I think our emotion be very much one tone. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
We got a job to do and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what gaming brings into it. Is a female character. They're complex. They're not one dimensional, right? Anyone that's been in a relationship with a gal, they're the biggest mystery in the world. That's just how it is, right?
Yes.
But you're able to see those small cues on the face. You're able to see those areas of the tone in her voice, high and low, everything that was going on there. So like it really brought you into just like, this is a girl that's seen a lot of shit, and it's been thrust into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just transplant just somebody else and it would be the same. It's not the same. And that, I think that's what's good, because if you do characters, like it really doesn't matter, what the character is, right? It can be anything from a dwarf to some of Asian descent, African American, Central Europe. It doesn't really matter. They all bring something unique to that when you have a character. So let's not be afraid to express those things. That makes any sense? I feel like we're in a time where we have certain characters. We're afraid to let those characters be them, who they are. If that makes any sense? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your take is on that, but
it was great. I loved every bit of that game, from the beginning to the end, for even going into the tombs and then even finding Battle Cat. Like I was like, what the hell is that thing? Like, and that, like it, when I had to show a picture of it on Twitter, like, and people were like, what was that? I didn't see that thing. I mean, that's the whole
tomb thing, right? Like how the tombs are structured, like it's incentivizing you to dig deeper into the game. You don't have to.
Right. And that's what made the game even more enriching to me, was the fact that you can, like when you go and you go and you find these these notes and things about the Crusaders and all that was coming out there and trying to convert the people to Christianity and things like that. And then you go and decipher the languages and you can understand the language of what, like, it was just it's so deep of how they did
it's all the people from Spain, right? Because that's what mostly all that influence on that part of the world is from those group of settlers, you know, which was awesome. Like it was like layers of history, right? Like there was the ancient history,
right?
There was the settler history, and then there's like the now and how they built up the story on we're in the whole area where they got into that hidden church.
Oh, that was going to be the next thing that I was going to talk about. That was insane right there. That was like the design of that to like that game really creeped me out a lot. And it wasn't like ultra scary or nothing like that. Like that game had that part right there was in that church really creeped me out. Like, what the hell is going on in here? Like this isn't right. That it was. Oh. Yeah,
exactly. But that's what it's supposed to make you feel like. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You're not embracing it. It's like, oh, you know, and you're just not into what's going on. But that's, if you think about it, if you're going into tombs, and that is a tomb technically, right? Just a different type. You can't imagine them being the most pleasant places to hang around, right? They should be a little outside of your comfort zone.
Right. Very true. But yeah, but the secret ending, basically, we talking about it. I mean, it's just, to me, I don't know. I kind of want them to do their own story. Like it would be cool to kind of revamp the whole Lara Croft story, the way that they have the way that they have the game look and all of that now. But they've done such a good job of rewriting this script or this chapter. I kind of want them to go a whole nother direction. So I'm all for them to do it, especially now with the DLCs that's coming out next. That's coming out. Was it next week? I think. I know it's next month. I think it might be next week, but it's 2-player co-op. So I can't wait to stream that. And we just go through those tombs. I love those tombs are so damn challenging, but they're so fun. The worst one for me was that one with the four lights. That took me about. I think you popped on, huh?
4 lights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a Petiti.
You did way more tombs than I did.
Oh, yeah, I did. I only need 1 tomb, and I need 3 crypts, and then I'll have all of them done. But there was one in Petiti in the Hidden City, on the far corner somewhere by itself, and they had these ray of lights, and they and you had to move those. You had to move those lights in order for it to turn these platforms to where you could jump over, and it took me forever, and I refused to go online to look. It almost made me do it. Because it was like an hour and a half, but then I finally figured it out, and I was like, "Whoo!" Because I was right on the edge, Jack. Like, I'm going to go ahead and hit this shit, because I was like, "This is terrible." But the game is challenging. Now, of course, there was some lazy development on some things where characters look the same. When you got further deeper into those side quests and things like that, where you kind of could tell that they weren't expecting a whole bunch of people to go look and stuff like that. But it still, to me, it was still gratifying, because it felt like an accomplishment to get those tombs and those crypts, man, open and stuff. And they were really challenging. God damn, they were challenging.
The one I creeped the hell out of me was the one where you had the sulfur gas.
Oh yeah.
And you had the mechanics with that. So when you explode the sulfur gas, that like would cause like these, like almost like these scales of justice type thing made out of like witch doctor stuff move around.
Yes.
But yeah, that was it was good. It was, you know, there's definitely areas where I say it can use improvement. I don't think it was a perfect game. I think a lot of people say that, but like it literally is one of the best story-based games I played in 2 years.
Yes, absolutely. it is up there with me with God of War, and it's in Detroit this year. Now, I have not played Spider-Man, but I just don't think Spider-Man, uh, and like I said, I haven't played it, so I'm not going to discredit it. I'm just saying that I just don't think Spider-Man can hold a candle to God of War, and if Tomb Raider can be in that same realm of God of War with me, then I don't see Spider-Man being that. But of course, I'm going to eventually play Spider-Man, so I'll let people know what I think about it. But yeah, it's great, man. So anyway, we want to have to get ready to get out of here. I just thought that was pretty interesting. That's some of the stuff that we'll definitely talk about on GRG Friday, and and hear what those guys think. And yes, JT, I'm going to keep my promise. We talked about this, but we'll talk about it again, and that is the Final Fantasy games that are coming to that's going to be coming to the I should say Xbox. The Final Fantasy. Did I say Final Fantasy games? I'm losing train of thought. Sorry.
Yeah,
the Final Fantasy games that's coming over to the Xbox. It's got me really excited, because I mean, to think Final Fantasy VII is coming over to the Xbox is crazy to me. It's real crazy to me. But they're also bringing Final Fantasy X, which is my overall favorite Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X2. I never got the chance to beat Final Fantasy X2. The one thing they got Final Fantasy VIII Zodiac Age. That's a cool little game. I got that on the PC. They got World Fantasy Maxima. Never played that. They got the Pocket Edition of Final Fantasy 15. I'm not really interested in that. But then they got Final Fantasy 9. That was cool. But the one that I'm kind of hating that they don't have in there, and that's probably my third favorite Final Fantasy, is Final Fantasy VIII, but that's going to be on the PlayStation, and I think that's and on the Switch. I wish that would came over to the Xbox, but yeah, it's that's still a good collection for Xbox fans out there who hasn't had a chance to play any of the Final Fantasies.
I mean, there's some people that moved on from PlayStation and Nintendo consoles and primarily play on Xbox. So
yeah,
I mean, it's one of those games. It's a third party game, so why not? You know what I mean? They're ports. Let's get people on that. And I'm saying it as somebody that's not a Final Fantasy gamer in regards to that. So
yeah, and there's a lot of people that don't really like turn-based. I love turn-based.
I try.
It's more of a strategy. I love the strategy with it, because when you get further deeper and when you fight with them crazy ass bosses, you have to know what you're doing, or it's chitons for you. I mean, chitons. Oh my goodness! But anyway,
yeah, it reminds me of old text adventures and like I work at 3D Studio Max and ZBrush and an Unreal Engine, and like I'm constantly going through a menu, through a sub menu. Like I don't need to do that in a game.
He said I'm past that. I'm
done. Like if the leveling up system, if I have to start drilling down to figure out how the level up system works, and like in a game, I'm like, please, no, this is work now. This is no longer fun. So, but yeah, that being said though, yeah, I guess we gotta call it. And I guess next time you're going to see us two together, probably playing Forza.
Yes, that's it. It will be Devin the Gamer being on the Forza tip. I mean, we'll see who else will be swinging with us. I mean, because I'm sure we won't be alone. There'll be a lot of people out there that's excited and anticipating Forza. There's people that hasn't played, that don't even play racers, that all of a sudden just came like, holy man, that demo just threw me. And then of course, I don't give a damn about a Metacritic score. Can't no critic tell me what game to like and what not to like. But for those Metacritic scores that Forza's been getting, that's up there on par with God of War. That's insane. And those people and for the people that do care about that, I mean, that should get people's attention, I guess. And hey, I mean, kudos to the Xbox staff out there for the Playground Games for made a stellar game, because I think that's who it's more addressed to when it comes to those Metacritic scores, is to the companies, not so much the gamers. But
it's good for them to get recognition, even if I don't enjoy the Metacritic and how it's handled. I really think it should be that whole bell curve average and to be honest with you, because it's still score high. God of War would still score high, but you would get the outliers that are just trying to look for attention out of that, and bring some integrity back to journalism. I want to see that come back, but that's a separate topic altogether, though. I mean, I think I guess the score of State of Decay and the Forza Horizon 4 right on the tee both times. So yeah, we'll see. I think I may have a formula for Xbox titles, so we'll see if it's true when it comes to down the Crackdown. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm still anticipating Crackdown. I mean, that I can't wait to see what they do with that. Also, on the inside Xbox, I forgot to bring up and I mean, I'll talk about that most likely on GRG, but the Dolby Vision. That sounds really dope. I can't wait to.
Oh, the Dolby Vision. Yeah, that's for video playback.
Yeah. It's supposed to synchronize your television to make the best nits or whatever to get the best colors for whatever that you're watching.
Basically, they have more options to play with things, and they have their own set standard. For those who like it, I think it's great. If you have a television to support it, mine does. That's great. But I really think in the long run, HDR10 will just dwarf what that is.
Think so? Well, HDR10.
So because the reason why how HDR10 works is televisions can get brighter, and I hate to say, I don't think OLEDs will be able to get darker, but let's say hypothetically can get darker. Is the technology of the screens improve, the current content will be able to scale with the content of those current screens and what they can do much better. Where there's certain limits that have been set on Dolby Vision, which still supersede what our current televisions are, just so people know. But the limits of how bright they can make it, they put a cap on it. Maybe they know best. As far as all that stuff goes. And television manufacturers may go rogue and may not be a good thing for them to continue to get brighter like that. But that's the difference that's going on there. So we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. But I think it's good to have that support for those video people that's going on there. Dolby Vision is, they're basically saying, hey, it's got the support, it's good to go. And when you got their stamp on it, you know that you got a good player. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In regards, I think there's some video people that get all caught up on different players and stuff like that, and this one looks better than that one, and I don't know about that one as far as that goes. So the Xbox One X supports the signal, and if you bought an X, you have additional value to your console that you didn't have yesterday. So it's a good thing.
And also FreeSync. I mean, that right there is huge too. That's one reason why I want to upgrade my television. I'm actually
not. I was excited about FreeSync, and now I'm thinking maybe not.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about that some other time.
Because I have frame rate interpolation is built into my television with low latency because I have the new Q8 FN 2018 model. So the newest one, they had that frame rate interpolation, which basically gives you false frames in between it. Usually, and most televisions have what they call, like, some brands will call it Motion Plus, whatever it may be, but it helps kind of smooth it out. People call it the soap opera effect, but that's what it's doing. It's faking those additional frames in regards to that. And I like lock frame rate. So if it's a lock 40, I get it. If it's a lock 30, lock 60, FreeSync will allow you to do lock 40, so people know what I'm talking about there. The frame rate interpolation does such a good job of faking it. I mean, it doesn't make it handle any differently because some games are affected by frame rate, some are not. But it does make it a lot smoother. So I played through the whole of, we're just talking about Tomb Raider. I played it in performance mode with all the advantages that, not performance mode, but high fidelity mode with all the advantages high fidelity mode offered. But when people were walking by, like my wife walked by, she thought it was 60 frames.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mess with performance mode. I kept it right on the graphics part of it.
So it's a good, so frame rate interpolation is a good solution to give you the visual effect of a higher frame rate, without having to compromise other things. So I think a lot of people would take that option. The whole FreeSync thing, like I don't like when frame rates bounce. If they bounce, they give you, if a game's dependent on the frame rate, and that, I always preference that because some games are not dependent on the frame rate as much as people think. If the game is totally dependent on the frame rate, and if it's bouncing from 60 to 50 to 40 to 45, that screws up the player's interface with it. It's not consistent. So a gamer will adjust to what the frame rate is if it's locked. And it'll give you the contextual feel of something that's reliable and consistent when it's a lock frame rate. But when it bounces around, it's a little bit all over the place. So I don't like anything that bounces more than 5 frames. Outside of that, then turn that shit off and lock the frame rate. So,
okay. All right. Now I did say that we could talk about that later, but you just went the hell on and just said,
just hit the button now, because otherwise it's going to be bad news, man.
No, man. I was like, oh my goodness.
I just woke up. I'm good to go.
Oh, you're ready. Anyway, I just wanted to make up say one more thing, and that was about the Alexa situation. That was really dope to see that you could do.
Connect 3.0.
Yeah, get Connect 3.0. Like, and it performs a lot better. So now I got to plug in my Alexa because I have not used it since for about a year, and it's really a cool thing. And then my friend that came over, he was like, "Man, what? I call pizza, I call you, and everything else. I just do everything with that thing." So I'm like, "All right, I'm going to start trip." The only thing
Hello? Yeah, Kamega cut out entirely. Just hit that button, Kamega. We got to end the show. Yeah, it's just me, guys. I don't know what's going on. Mega's out. I don't know what's going on. But thanks for joining us. I think we're about to cut off. Okay, Mega's batteries went out. His podcast is still going live. I don't know if I cut out, if it cuts it out for everybody. But thanks for joining us. K Mega will fix this on the backside, and we'll shoot for next Wednesday.
Okay, I'm back.
Are you here, Mega?
Yeah, I'm back. My the battery to the laptop went out, and I was like, that's why I was trying to wrap it up, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh man. So
all right, Mega, hit the damn button. I don't know what's going on.
Get out of here. No, I left the plug in the front room, and I just grabbed the laptop and I just put it up there, and I was like, oh snap. So it's all good. But anyway, let's get out of here, man. Where can they find you at?
The Don_KTR on Twitter. It's the same as my gamer tag, just no underscore on the gamer tag.
All right, all right. And of course, you can find me on this channel. And Friday night is going to be the GRG podcast. So come and join us and have a good time. Like that is the nightcap for gaming news topics, and we have fun. Make sure that you have your adult beverage. If you're too young, have a glass of milk. It does a body good. So
Hey, have one of those box drinks. Drink in the
well, I
box.
mean, yeah. I mean, you can do a drink in the box, but I mean, milk is a better solution. You know what I'm saying? You know, don't have to put soda unless you want to mix it with something. But anyway, regardless, thank you guys so much for another episode of Devin the Gamer. I am glad that I got on here and the Don to just bail out because I was like, damn it, I got to see if it's still on. Okay, so the show is it's definitely complete now. So everybody have a good one. Until the next Devin the Gamer, we are out. Peace.